Hey there guys, what's going on? Case41 here, and I am just going to show off a little prototype game that I made. It is called Reverse Vampire Survivors. Now, well, it's not really called Reverse Vampire Survivors so much as just Reverse Survivors, but it is kind of like a Reverse Vampire Survivors almost. So instead of you being the hero, you are the entity that is, spawning in all these things. You can adjust your health, you can adjust your speed, you can adjust your MP generation, which is just like this thing that you can use to kind of spawn people in. And I put it up on itch.io because it is just a really rough prototype, and I was like, let's just see if there's any interest in it, see if it's something that I actually, want to put more than. I think I actually spent about 8 to 10 hours maybe. Just developing this quick prototype. A lot of it revolved around just making the NPC kind of appropriately kind of run away. Also the sword bouncing animation here of it actually hitting something and bouncing was kind of hard just to kind of get all that together. But otherwise, it was a good little project. I kind of banged it out in, like I said, probably 8 to 10 hours, and I was like, you know what, I kind of like this. I kind of like this enough that I'm going to put it up on itch or something like that and just see if anybody is interested in it. And so I put it up on itch. I'm just going to refresh the page so the game stops. And, your little blurb here about how this is a rough prototype, whatever. And Fort Kimi dropped a little YouTube video on it. I watched his video. I thought a lot of what he had to say was actually really, really good feedback. So I think I am going to make some changes to the project. Now, he had a whole list of things that he wanted to kind of remediate. So the few things that he wanted fixed, or at least adjusted, I wrote down. I took notes from his video and I wrote them down just to kind of, organize my thoughts. So one of the first ones that I think is actually pretty easy is move the mana bar to the top. Now that sounds pretty easy, but I have to make sure that a couple things, the player stays within the screen space, because I don't have the camera following the player or anything like that because it's a quick prototype. I could adjust that, but I don't think I'm going to quite yet. We also want to make sure the player can't walk on top of the MP bar. That shouldn't be much of a change because it's just going to be moved to the top. I already have it set up that way, so it should not be an extra too much work there. Displaying the hero stats. That's going to be a little bit more of a heavy lift. I'm thinking on the left side, I might go ahead and display all the stats over there. Maybe I'll do a pop-up window. I don't know. I haven't really decided quite yet. He wanted the spawn bars broken out into something, nicer. That was the most ambiguous one, bit of feedback, just because I'm not really sure a good way to kind of reflect all that information. So maybe I'll do some kind of mode all window or something like that, break it out into that, and just have the game pause while you make your selections or something like that. That one's TBD. The upgrade breakouts, which I thought was an excellent piece of feedback, is to take everything on the right side of the UI and break that out into individual buttons, because it's stuff you're going to be clicking pretty frequently, so you want it to be easily accessible. He pointed out he's a fan of minimalist UI, which I also am, but hiding something as crucial as that away is kind of silly. But again, prototype, I'm open to anything. And then show hide desired fields in the output display in the upper right hand there that shows your monsters and stuff, just so you can kind of control your own UI and everything like that. Also, a very good idea. Alright, so let's get started with moving the mana bar and maybe a few other things. My plan for this video is kind of just point out what I'm going to do and then just have a time lapse of me actually doing it and then stopping and then kind of reflecting and seeing how it looks. Alright, let's get moving on the mana bar. All right, so that actually should wrap up everything I need to do to move the MP bar to the top there. So what I actually ended up doing is I fixed 2 bugs actually while I was at it. So one thing that I noticed is my hero's flee distance was all messed up. Just because this was a prototype, I threw it together as quickly as possible. The way I kind of did it is I just picked screen spaces across the entire project and kind of just limited the player from being able to go there. And I kind of just drug this guy around to find the best spots. And it works pretty well for the most part, especially just for a quick prototype. If I was actually going to make this into anything real, I would probably have the camera follow the player and, you know, do a parallax background or something like that, and allow like a lot more freedom of movement than I already am. But right now, that's what I'm limiting to. And actually, something that I'm realizing right now while I'm sitting here is these arrows are not going to reflect exactly what I want them to if I don't move them. They'll just be a little bit behind the UI, and that's not exactly what we want. So we'll go ahead and stretch those out. Now we run into the situation where these look a little funny, but I think that's fine. All right. I guess we are on to the next one. Ooh, display hero stats. That's going to be a toughie. Okay. I have to think about how I'm going to do this. All right. I guess let's get started. Alrighty, so little bit of a tangent there, but we did manage to do it. So I actually figured out, because this is a prototype and I just kind of threw it together really quick, I made no concessions for tracking multiple hero stat displays at all, because I didn't display them originally, so I never put any thought into it. Nor did I do anything best practice pretty much at all during this. But hey, there's a hero display and it works. And for a prototype, you know, in game development, that's all you really need. But it does work. I did have to go on a little tangent for string formatting. I totally forgot how the heck to do it in Godot. I can probably do it down here. But a lot of the times for readability, I like to figure out like what the heck I'm doing ahead of time. So a lot of the times I'll cast it to a temporary variable, you know, not very memory efficient, but it does clean it up at the end of the function here. So I'm not too concerned about memory efficiency in a very modern kind of game like this, especially for something that's going to be so tiny. But otherwise, I think moving the hero stat displays is done. Alright, now that I have that taken care of, showing a little bit more information, I actually cut a segment where I tried to redesign the bottom UI, but I couldn't come up with anything good enough within a reasonable amount of time. I'd actually have to sit down, sketch it out, and figure it out. I just don't know a good way to kind of take all the context of pick a monster, picking them out, and spawn it within a reasonable thing. So I think I might break out these buttons at some point, but I think as an improvement on the left side panel here, I'm just going to add a little bit more context, throw in some tooltips, throw in some icons, maybe add another monster, just kind of make it more clear the point of why you would want to spawn these waves. Alright, let's get to it. All right, not sure if I really accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, but I definitely think pause menu that you can use escape to kind of convey information a little bit better will kind of work. Kind of fits on theme, kind of doesn't. But again, it's a prototype. I'm just kind of doing a little bit of patching just to make things a little bit more clear to people whenever they play the prototype. I think if I were to actually redo this, I actually scrapped a whole section. I think I talked about it, about trying to rework the menu buttons at the bottom. Now, one of the bits of feedback I got was I should break this section out on the bottom right into separate buttons. I still tend to agree with that. I do think that is something I should do, but I do think the UI would look really, really cluttered down here if I did that for the prototype. It'd probably still be best for usability, but I actually think I'm just going to pass on doing it. I still think it's the right call to do it, but I just think it would make things very cluttered for the prototype. I think it would make things just a little too verbose, and I would rather have it hidden away. I am a huge fan of just minimalist UI design. Hide as much away as you can until it's absolutely necessary, and it just, while that probably wouldn't be the best case here, I'm just sticking with it. This is a prototype. If we keep getting the level of interest that I've been getting, I might develop this into something, more serious, take a bit more time, sit down, sketch out some stuff and whatnot. But otherwise, I think that's a good little patch. Kind of show off what the bat does, kind of explain their stats better, kind of outline where the hero is. The MP bar on the top was definitely the right call. One other piece of feedback I got was to have some kind of drop-down checkbox over here on this section, so you could kind of display what stats you are and aren't interested in. I do also think that's a good idea, but I think for the amount of information we have here, it doesn't really make a lot of sense for me to take the time to do that. I think in a main game, whenever I would be displaying a lot more stats, if I turn this into something serious, that would be a really good piece of feedback, to be able to customize your kind of outlook here and everything that you can see. But overall, I think that's pretty good. I think I am just going to go ahead and package this up and ship it off to Itch and maybe post a little devlog of it. All right, hope everybody enjoyed. See you later.